everybody, it's the Law Gnome, and welcome to my third and final installment of A Movie for Every Year of My Life. We're now going to go into the final decade of this little project, and we're going to be looking at a movie for every year of my life from 2000 until 2012. Now, at this point in time, I am in college. I pretty much know where I stand in regards to movies, but another little thing actually happens as the decade slowly moves along. I start to become critical towards what I'm watching, and there are points in time where I'm actually going to movies and saying, I hate this piece of crap. So anyway, it's time for another 10 movies plus 2 bonus, because of the fact that we're going to take a look at 2011 and 2012. So let's begin with the best movie of the year 2000. Cameron Crowe is, without a doubt, one of the most amazing directors, even though he really doesn't have much to his name. And Almost Famous is one of the best movies that I have ever seen, especially someone who likes period pieces, who likes music. A great cast of unknowns now known. Everybody from Frances McDormand to Anna Paquin to Billy Crudup to a young Kate Hudson, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and, of course, Zooey Deschanel. If you like music, especially something in regards to living the life of a rock star, because it is in fact a take on Led Zeppelin, I think you'll truly enjoy Almost Famous. In 2001, the best movie, I have to give it to this one. There are so many people that just talk and talk and talk about Donnie Darko. I took a science fiction literature class back in 2002, and that was basically when I decided it was time to get off of my ass and rent this movie. This is one of the most original science fiction pieces I've ever seen. Jake Gyllenhaal, Jenna Malone, Drew Barrymore, the list goes on and on. One of Patrick Swayze's best. It's such an incredible movie that just makes you think. I love movies that are not just there for the cheap thrills. Donnie Darko is a movie that makes you think, and I really think that you should see this movie if you haven't. In 2002, I'm going to give it to this Steven Spielberg classic, one of his most underrated projects, Catch Me If You Can. At this point in time, I was not the biggest fan of Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, all you Titanic fans say what you will, I really didn't care for him at this point in time. Then he goes and he does this movie, and I think he's one of the best actors ever. Of course, you got Tom Hanks in it, a great cast, a great score by John Williams. I don't understand why this movie didn't get enough critical acclaim from the Academy Awards. It was so great, and the whole 60s feel and the music, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful film. In 2003, I'm agreeing with the Academy, and I give it to Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. How was this movie not going to win Best Picture? If this movie did not win Best Picture in 2003, the nerds were going to burn the country to the ground. Maybe even the world. I mean, I love all three of these movies, but The Return of the King was just the most heartfelt, has some of the most beautiful moments that actually would make grown men cry. And there is another movie in this grouping that does in fact make grown men cry, but The Lord of the Rings, to me, is such a beautiful piece of film work. It's the most perfectly made film. Everything from the shading, to the lighting, to the camera angles, to the cast, to the backgrounds. These movies are just perfect. Are they the best movies? No, there's so many more movies out there, but the way that these movies were made, it was just perfection. And Peter Jackson did create a true masterpiece, and Return of the King was just the culmination of his many, many years of hard work to bring this well-known and popular story in science fiction to the big screen, and it was the first sci-fi fantasy film to ever win a Best Picture award. In 2004, I'll give you a big surprise. I give it to James Wan's Saw. I mean, I am by no means a horror fan, and horror films are never really, scream-worthy of, oh, this movie is beautiful, but this movie took 18 days to make. It is a movie that makes you have to watch everything. If you blink, you're going to miss something truly important to the story. And this movie spawns 6 sequels that are extremely connected to one another. And Carrie Ewells is so brilliant in this movie. And if you are not a horror fan, I can understand why you won't see this movie, but if you just want to see something that just breaks the mold in the world of horror, then you've got to see this movie. And Michael Emerson is in this movie too. He is so scary. 2005, I don't own it, but it goes to Steven Spielberg's Munich. That's a piece of history that is really intriguing to me because I love the Olympics, and all the events that took place during the 1972 Olympics were earth-shattering and heartbreaking, but the story of actually what took place, or what supposedly took place after, to find the organizations that caused these murders of these Olympic athletes, is just very, very gripping. It's got a great cast like Eric Bana and Jeffrey Rush, and I highly recommend that you see that movie, if anything, just once. In 2006, I can't stress this enough, this is probably one of the toughest movies to sit through, but I sit through it once a year. It's United 93, directed by Paul Greengrass. It's the story of the plane that went down in Pennsylvania during the 9/11 attacks, and Paul Greengrass, who directed this movie, did so much research. He knocked on the doors of all of the surviving families of the people that were on United 93, and he basically wanted to make sure that he got everything right when he made this movie. He had people who actually were in the air traffic control towers when the attacks were actually taking place, playing their roles in this movie. It's a very gripping movie. It's sometimes very uncomfortable to watch, but it's a must. This is just a very important movie to see, and it's just done with so much respect to the deceased and to the survivors, and it's just a small reminder of that even in the darkest of times, we can find the courage to rise and try to stop evil from taking place. After a sad note, we go to a happy note in 2007, and I give it to Hot Fuzz. Edgar Wright is one of my all-time favorite directors. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. While Shaun of the Dead is a brilliant movie, this movie is just so much more fun. These guys are just too awesome. That's what I love about Edgar Wright movies. They're just flat-out awesome. You can't turn away from these brilliant comedic films that are just filled with so much more than just comedy, action, love interest, gore. It's a great and fun movie, and I've already seen the trailer to The World's End, and it looks just as great as Hot Fuzz. Out of all the Edgar Wright movies that star a great comedic duo, this is definitely the best one out of the soon-to-be 3. So I'm hoping that we do get a better movie in The World's End, but Hot Fuzz is just great. You have to see it. In 2008, another movie that I don't own because I just don't intend on seeing it again, it's another movie that I agree with the Academy on, and that's Slumdog Millionaire. It's a brilliant feel-good movie about an impoverished boy that manages to find the love of his life just by going on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's got a beautiful soundtrack, and it's just so amazing and fast-paced and very, very gripping, even though it's just a very subtle love story. And it's just amazing to see how this boy who comes from nothing manages to get everything he truly ever wants, even when it may not in fact be riches. In 2009, Hot Fuzz may be awesome, but Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds is so much more awesome. Brad Pitt, this is probably one of the greatest roles he's ever had. We were introduced to a guy named Christoph Waltz. This is Quentin Tarantino's greatest movie to date. And I have seen everything that he has directed. Not everything that he has written, but everything that he has directed. And Inglourious Basterds is just one of the most amazing and entertaining movies I've ever seen. You have to see this movie if you have not yet. And in 2010, I give it to a true classic in my eyes, and it's Toy Story 3. Toy Story was a groundbreaking movie in the world of animation, but Toy Story 3 just brings so much more to closing out this story. Even though there is a fabled Toy Story 4 in the works, I hope that that's a lie, because when you see the ending to this film, it's just amazing to believe that this is an animated film that just started where it began back in 1995, and the characters and the bonds and just the true emotion that pours during the final minutes of this movie, it's just too much to handle, just because of the fact that it comes from a movie like Toy Story. So for 2011 and 2012, I give you links to these 2 reviews because these are the movies that I thought were the best in 2011 and 2012. So check them out, and I hope that you enjoyed this 3-part project that I did. I thank all of you that actually told me to get in on this, especially the great DrHasslein. There will be a link to his channel below. He's still working on his because he's doing them one by one. He's about to put out 1991. So for now, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to let me know what you thought. And if you all have been watching this and want to do this on your own, please do, and send me links. I'd love to see you do it. Actions speak louder than words.